I still remember the exact tone in his voice when he yelled it from upstairs. Sharp, impatient, cutting through the house like something breaking. "Hurry up, Mom, I can't stand on it anymore." I froze in the kitchen, my hand gripping the edge of the marble counter so hard my fingers started to ache. The word "mom" still didn't feel like it belonged to me, not really. Not after only 8 months of marriage to his father. Not after everything that had already gone wrong before this moment. I had been pouring a glass of wine when he shouted that. It was barely 6:30 p.m., too early to justify it, but I'd been doing that a lot lately, starting early, finishing late, pretending I wasn't unraveling in a house that never quite felt like mine. "I'm coming," I called back, forcing my voice to sound steady. I set the wine down, but didn't drink it. Not yet. My heart was already beating too fast. His name was Tyler, 20 years old, tall, athletic, always walking around like he owned every inch of space he stepped into. He wasn't a kid, not even close, but there were moments, like when he called me Mom in that half-mocking, half-casual way, that made everything feel twisted in a way I couldn't explain out loud. I wiped my hands on a towel and headed toward the stairs, each step heavier than the last. When I reached the top, his bedroom door was halfway open. "Seriously," he said, his voice closer now, edged with frustration. "How long does it take?" I pushed the door open a little more and stepped inside. He was standing in the middle of the room, barefoot, one foot resting awkwardly on a wooden chair. A brand new pair of boots sat on the floor beside him, still stiff, the leather barely broken in. "They're too tight," he said immediately, like I should have known that already. "I can't get the other one on." I blinked, trying to recalibrate. This was normal, this was fine. Just helping him with boots, nothing complicated, nothing loaded. "Why didn't you just sit down?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "Because if I take this one off, I'll never get it back on," he said. "I already fought with it for 10 minutes. I stepped closer, kneeling slightly to look at the boot on his foot. It was pulled halfway on, the heel not fully settled. "Did you loosen the laces all the way?" I asked. He let out a short laugh. "Yeah, I'm not an idiot." I ignored the comment and reached for the boot, my fingers brushing against the leather first, then accidentally grazing his ankle. His skin was warm, warmer than I expected. I pulled my hand back for half a second, then forced myself to continue. "Relax your foot," I said. "It is relaxed." "It's not," I muttered, trying to tug the boot into place. It didn't budge. He shifted his weight, and I instinctively reached up, placing a hand against his calf to steady him. That's when everything went off. Not all at once, not something dramatic, just a subtle shift, like the air in the room changed pressure. His leg tensed under my hand. I felt it immediately, and I should have moved my hand right then. I didn't. "Hold still," I said, quieter now, more focused on the sensation than the task. He didn't respond, not verbally, but he didn't pull away either. I adjusted my grip, one hand on the boot, the other still on his leg, and pulled harder this time. The heel slid down into place with a dull thud. "There," I said, letting out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. But I didn't move away. Neither did he. For a second, or maybe longer than that, we were just stuck there in this strange, suspended moment, my hand still resting against him, his body completely still. Then he said it. "Why do you always do that?" I looked up, confused. "Do what?" "Act like everything's normal when it's not." His eyes were already on me when I lifted my head. There was something in them I hadn't seen before. Or maybe I had, and I'd been ignoring it. "I don't know what you mean," I said, even though my voice didn't sound convincing. He let out a quiet breath through his nose, almost like a laugh, but without any humor in it. "Yeah," he said, "you do." I pulled my hand away then, finally creating some space between us as I stood up. My heart was pounding harder now, for reasons I didn't want to name. "It's just a boot, Tyler," I said, brushing invisible dust off my jeans. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped down from the chair, testing his footing. "The boots fit now, perfectly." "Nothing," he said eventually. But the word felt like a lie the second it left his mouth. I nodded, even though it didn't sit right. "Okay," I said. "Then you're good now." "Yeah," he said. But he didn't move, and neither did I. The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable. I should have left. That would have been the normal thing to do. Walk out, go back downstairs, finish pouring that glass of wine, and pretend none of this felt weird. Instead, I stayed. "Your dad's working late again," I said, the words coming out before I could stop them. Tyler's jaw tightened slightly. "Yeah, that's not new." "No," I said, "it's not." Another pause. "You knew what you were signing up for," he added, his tone sharper now. "Marrying him." That stung more than I expected. "I didn't marry him for his schedule," I said quietly. "Then why did you marry him?" The question landed heavier than it should have. I crossed my arms, more defensive now. "That's not really your business." He shrugged, but his eyes didn't leave mine. "Feels like it is when I'm the one living here, too." I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my composure. "I married him because I loved him," I said. Tyler tilted his head slightly, studying me like he was trying to read something deeper than my words. "Do you?" he asked. The question hit somewhere uncomfortable. Too honest, too direct. "Of course I do," I said, but even I could hear the hesitation. He noticed it too. "Right," he said, almost under his breath. I felt irritation rise, mixing with something else I couldn't quite define. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," he said, stepping a little closer now, "you don't look like someone who's happy." I let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "And you're an expert on that?" "No," he said, "but I know what it looks like when someone's pretending." The way he said it, calm, steady, uncomfortably certain, made my chest tighten. "You don't know anything about my marriage," I said. "I know you drink more than you used to," he replied immediately. I stiffened. "I know you sit in the living room at night with the TV on but don't actually watch it," he continued. "And I know you flinch every time his phone rings when he's not here." My throat went dry. "Tyler." "And I know," he added, cutting me off, his voice dropping just slightly, "you've been avoiding looking at me the last couple weeks." That one hit the hardest, because it was true. I swallowed, forcing myself to stay composed. "You're imagining things." "Am I?" "Yes." He held my gaze for a long second, then shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "You're just not ready to admit it." I felt something crack inside me then. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet fracture spreading under the surface. "This conversation is inappropriate," I said, grasping for control. "I'm your—" "Don't," he cut in quickly. I stopped. "Don't say it," he added, his voice sharper now.
Because we both know it doesn't feel like that. The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. My heart was racing again, faster than before. "This is exactly why I've been avoiding you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper now. "Why?" he asked. "Because you say things like that." "Things like what? The truth?" I shook my head, stepping back toward the door. "No, this isn't okay." "Then why didn't you leave earlier?" he asked. I didn't have an answer, and he knew it. That was the worst part. "I think you should go downstairs," I said finally, my voice steadier now, even if everything inside me felt anything but. "Yeah," he said, but again, he didn't move right away. Neither did I. For a split second, it felt like something was about to happen, something irreversible. Then he turned away first. "Thanks for the help," he said, his tone suddenly neutral again, like none of that had just happened. I nodded, even though he wasn't looking at me anymore. "Sure," I said. I walked out of the room, down the stairs, back into the kitchen. The glass of wine was still sitting exactly where I left it. This time, I picked it up and took a long sip. My hand was shaking, and I couldn't stop hearing his voice in my head. "We both know it doesn't feel like that." I told myself he was wrong. I told myself this was just stress, just tension, just a house full of things left unsaid. But deep down, there was a part of me that already knew. Something had shifted, and there was no going back to normal. I didn't sleep that night. I tried, I really did. I laid in bed with the lights off, staring at the ceiling, flipping my pillow over every few minutes like that would somehow cool down everything racing inside my head. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same moment replaying over and over again. His leg under my hand, the tension in his voice, the way he looked at me like he already knew something I was still trying to deny. Around midnight, I heard his door open upstairs. The house had that hollow kind of quiet, the kind that makes every small sound feel louder than it should be. Footsteps crossed the hallway, slow and steady, then faded toward the stairs. I held my breath without meaning to. A second later, I heard him come down. The floor creaked lightly under his weight, then the soft hum of the fridge opening, closing, a glass clinking against the counter. I could have stayed in bed. That would have been the smart thing, the normal thing. Instead, I got up. I don't even remember making the decision. One second I was lying there, and the next I was standing, pulling open my bedroom door just enough to look out into the hallway. The light from the kitchen spilled faintly into the living room. He was still down there. I hesitated for a second, my hand gripping the edge of the door. Then I stepped out. Each step toward the stairs felt heavier than the last, like I was walking into something I already knew I shouldn't be part of. When I reached the bottom, I saw him leaning against the counter, shirtless, wearing nothing but a pair of gray sweatpants that hung low on his hips. He had a glass of water in his hand, condensation running down the sides. He looked up when he heard me. For a second, neither of us said anything. "You couldn't sleep either?" he asked, like this was normal, like we were just two people sharing the same house at the same hour for no reason at all. "No," I said. I crossed my arms without thinking, suddenly aware of the thin tank top I was wearing, the fact that I hadn't bothered putting on a bra before coming down. "Me neither," he said, taking a sip of water. Silence settled between us again, but it wasn't the same kind as before. This one felt heavier, like everything we didn't say earlier was still sitting there, waiting. "You want something?" he asked, gesturing lightly toward the fridge. I shook my head. "I'm good." He nodded once, then set the glass down on the counter. "You've been avoiding me," he said, just like that. No build-up, no hesitation. I let out a small breath, trying to stay calm. "We already talked about this." "Not really. There's nothing to talk about." He tilted his head slightly, watching me in that same way that made my chest tighten. "Then why does it feel like there is?" I didn't answer right away.
Instead, I walked past him, heading toward the sink like I had some reason to be there, like I needed a glass of water too, even though I didn't. I think you're overthinking things, I said, turning on the faucet just to have something to do. Or maybe you're underthinking them, he replied. I let the water run longer than necessary, then shut it off, gripping the edge of the sink. This isn't appropriate, I said, quieter now. You shouldn't be talking to me like this. Why? He asked. I turned to face him. You know why. Because of a label? He said. It's not just a label, Tyler. Then what is it? I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came out. Because I didn't have a clean answer, not one that felt true. He took a step closer. Not too close, not crossing any obvious line, but enough that I felt it. You keep acting like there's this invisible wall, he said, like we're supposed to pretend it's there even when it doesn't feel real. It is real, I said quickly. Is it? Yes. He studied my face for a second, like he was looking for something specific. Then why do you look at me like that? He asked. My stomach dropped. I don't, I said immediately. You do. You're imagining things. I'm not. The certainty in his voice made it harder to push back. You think I don't notice? He continued. The way you get quiet when I walk into a room. The way you leave when it's just the two of us. The way you won't even look at me half the time. That's because I'm trying to keep things normal, I said, my voice rising slightly. Normal for who? He asked. You? For both of us. He shook his head slightly. It doesn't feel normal. It's supposed to. Why? The question hit harder than it should have. Because that's what this is, I said, even though the words felt weaker now. That's what it has to be. He let out a quiet breath, running a hand through his hair. You keep saying that, he said, like repeating it's going to make it true. It is true. Then say it like you believe it. I went silent. Because I couldn't. And he saw that. That was the problem. That's what I thought, he said softly. Something in my chest twisted, tight and uncomfortable. This needs to stop, I said, forcing the words out. What does? This, whatever this is. And what is it? He pressed. I shook my head, stepping back. I'm not doing this. Doing what? Talking? This isn't just talking. Then what is it? He pressed. I don't know, I admitted, the words slipping out before I could stop them. The second they did, everything felt different. The air, the distance between us, the way he was looking at me. You don't know, he repeated quietly. No, I said, my voice barely above a whisper now. He took another step closer. This time, it was too close. I felt my back hit the edge of the counter behind me. Nowhere left to step without making it obvious I was trying to get away. But I didn't move. That was the part that scared me the most. You don't know, he said again, slower this time, like he was testing the weight of the words. No, I repeated.
His eyes dropped for a second, then came back up to meet mine. And then, softer than anything he'd said before, but you feel it. It wasn't a question. That was the problem. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. This is wrong, I said. Maybe, he replied. Not maybe. It is. Then why aren't you walking away? I didn't answer. Because I couldn't. Because my feet felt stuck to the floor. Because a part of me didn't want to. And that terrified me. Say it, he said quietly. Say what? That you don't feel anything. I stared at him, my mind racing, searching for the right words. But nothing came out. Not the denial, not the lie, just silence. And that was enough. He nodded slowly, like he'd just gotten the confirmation he needed. Yeah, he said. My chest tightened. This doesn't mean anything. It means something. No, it doesn't. Then prove it. My breath caught. How? I asked, even though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. He didn't say anything right away. He just stood there, close enough that I could feel the heat coming off his skin, close enough that one small movement would close whatever distance was left. Walk away, he said finally. I blinked. What? Walk away, he repeated. Right now. I hesitated. Just for a second, but it was enough. His jaw tightened slightly. That's what I thought, he said again, softer this time. Something inside me snapped then, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a quiet, desperate kind of way. I hate this, I said,
my voice shaking now. I hate that you're putting me in this position. I'm not putting you anywhere, he replied. You're already here. That's not fair. Neither is pretending nothing's happening. I shook my head, my thoughts spiraling. This is a mistake, I said. Then stop it. I'm trying. Try harder. The frustration, the tension, the confusion, it all built up at once, hitting a breaking point I didn't see coming. Stop telling me what to do, I snapped. Then stop acting like you don't have a choice, he shot back. We both went silent after that. The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. I could feel my pulse in my throat, my hands trembling slightly at my sides. This had gone too far. Way too far. And yet, neither of us moved. Neither of us said the one thing that would end it, because we both knew what that would mean. I'm going upstairs, I said finally, my voice quieter now, steadier. Okay, he said, but he didn't move. I pushed myself off the counter, forcing my legs to work, to carry me away from him. I made it a few steps before his voice stopped me. Hey. I closed my eyes for a second before turning back. Yeah? He hesitated. Just for a moment. Then, you're not the only one who can't sleep, he said. It wasn't what I expected, and somehow that made it worse. I nodded once, not trusting myself to say anything else. Then I turned and walked upstairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. When I got back to my room, I shut the door and leaned against it, my heart still racing. I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. Because the line we were supposed to stay behind, we hadn't just crossed it. We'd stopped pretending it was there. The next morning felt wrong before I even opened my eyes. You ever wake up and immediately feel like something shifted overnight, like the air itself is heavier? That's what it was. My chest felt tight, my stomach uneasy, like I already knew I was walking into something I couldn't undo. I stayed in bed longer than I should have, staring at my phone, scrolling through nothing, rereading the same messages over and over, just to avoid getting up. My husband had texted sometime after midnight. Running late. Don't wait up. That was it. No, I love you. No explanation. No follow-up this morning. I typed out a response 3 different times. Deleted it. Every time. Eventually, I forced myself out of bed. The house was quiet. Too quiet. For a second, I thought maybe Tyler had already left, and I felt this strange mix of relief and something else I didn't want to name. Disappointment, maybe. That scared me more than anything. I walked into the kitchen, still in my oversized t-shirt, hair a mess, not fully awake yet. He was sitting at the counter. Of course he was. Leaning back slightly on the stool, one leg stretched out, the other bent. A mug of coffee in his hand, like he'd been there for a while. Like he was waiting. Our eyes met the second I stepped in. Neither of us spoke. Morning, he said after a second. Casual. Like nothing had happened the night before. Morning, I replied, trying to match his tone. It felt fake. Forced. But I went with it anyway. I moved to the coffee machine, focusing on small, pointless movements. Grabbing a mug. Pouring. Stirring. Anything to avoid looking at him too long. You sleep? He asked. Not really. Yeah, he said quietly. Me neither. Silence again. I could feel his eyes on me, even without turning around. Your dad texted. The words slipping out before I could stop them. I know, he replied. He texted me too. That made me pause. I turned slightly, glancing at him. What did he say? Same thing he always says. Tyler shrugged. Work. Late. Don't wait up. I let out a small breath. Yeah. Another pause. Then, he's been doing that a lot, Tyler added. I didn't respond, because there was nothing to say that wouldn't open a door I wasn't ready to walk through. Doesn't that bother you? He asked. I forced a small shrug, turning back to my coffee. That's not what I asked. I closed my eyes for half a second, studying myself. Of course it bothers me, I admitted quietly. But what am I supposed to do about it? He didn't answer right away. Instead, I felt him shift behind me,
The soft scrape of the stool against the floor as he stood up. Then footsteps. Closer. Too close. I turned before he could get right behind me, putting a small amount of space between us. "Don't," I said, not even sure what I meant exactly. His expression tightened slightly. "Don't what?" "Don't do that." "Do what?" he repeated. "This." I gestured vaguely between us, frustration creeping into my voice. "Stand so close. Look at me like that. Talk like nothing's wrong." "Nothing is wrong," he said. "Yes, it is." "Then say it." "I already have." "No, you haven't," he replied, his voice steady, controlled. "You keep dancing around it." My grip tightened around my mug. "Because I don't want to say it out loud," I snapped. "Why?" "Because then it's real." The words slipped out before I could stop them, and the second they did, everything went still. His eyes locked onto mine, sharper now. "Then it's already real," he said. My stomach dropped. "No," I said quickly. "No, it's not." "Then say it's not." I opened my mouth. But again, nothing came out. And that silence said everything. He exhaled slowly, almost like he'd been expecting that. "Yeah," he muttered. I shook my head, stepping back again, trying to put distance between us. "This is a mistake," I said. "Then why does it feel like the only honest thing that's happened in this house?" he asked. That hit harder than I expected. "Don't say that," I said, my voice quieter now. "Why not? It's true." "No, it's not." "Then what is?" he pressed. "Pretending you're happy with him? Pretending you don't feel anything when we're in the same room?"
This isn't about you, I said. It feels like it is. It's not, I insisted. It's about everything else. Then why does it only show up when it's just us? He asked. I didn't have an answer, and he knew it. That was the worst part. He kept pushing me into corners where the only way out was the truth, and I wasn't ready for that. "I'm going out today," I said abruptly, changing the subject. He frowned slightly. "Where?" "Just out. I need air." He studied me for a second, like he was trying to decide whether to push further. Then he nodded. "Okay." I grabbed my keys off the counter, my heart still racing. As I moved toward the door, I felt his presence behind me again. Not touching, not crossing any obvious line, but close enough that it made everything feel charged. "Running away won't fix it," he said quietly. I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. "I'm not running away," I said. "Then what are you doing?" I hesitated. Then, trying not to make things worse, I opened the door and stepped outside before he could respond. The cool air hit me immediately, sharp against my skin, grounding in a way the house wasn't anymore. I got in my car and just sat there for a minute, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to study my breathing. What the hell was I doing? What was I thinking? This wasn't some harmless tension. This wasn't something I could just ignore until it went away. It was building, getting stronger. And if I didn't stop it now, I didn't even want to finish that thought. I drove aimlessly for a while, not really paying attention to where I was going. Just moving, just putting distance between me and the house, between me and him. But distance didn't help, because he was still in my head. The way he looked at me, the way he spoke, like he saw right through everything I tried to hide. The way I couldn't deny it when he pushed me to say I felt nothing. Because I did feel something, and that was the problem. By the time I got back home, it was late afternoon. I sat in the car again for a moment before going inside, bracing myself. The house was quiet. I exhaled slowly, stepping in, hoping, stupidly, that maybe he'd gone out, that I'd have time to breathe, to reset. But then I heard movement upstairs. My stomach tightened. Of course he was still there. I tried to keep things normal. I really did. I went into the kitchen, started making dinner, putting on music, pretending like this was just another day. For a while, it almost worked. Until he came downstairs. I felt him before I saw him. That same shift in the air. "Hey," he said, casual again, like this morning hadn't happened. "Hey," I replied, not turning around. "What are you making?" "Pasta. Smells good. Thanks." Silence. Then, "You didn't answer my question earlier." I closed my eyes briefly. "I know." "So?" he pressed.
I set the spoon down, my hands resting on the counter. I don't want to have this conversation again, I said. Why not? Because it's not going anywhere good. Maybe it already has, he said. I turned then, facing him. What does that mean? He stepped a little closer, not too much, but enough. It means, he said slowly, we both know what this is. My heart started racing again. No, I said, we don't. Yeah, he said, we do. I shook my head, backing up slightly. This stops. Right now, then stop it. I'm trying. Then try harder. The same words from last night. And somehow they hit even harder now. I am, I said, my voice breaking slightly. You think this is easy for me? I don't think it's easy for either of us, he replied. Then why are you making it worse? Because pretending it's not there doesn't make it go away. My chest tightened. I'm married, I said, like saying it out loud would fix everything. He didn't flinch. I know. That should be enough. Is it? He asked. I hesitated. And that hesitation said everything. He stepped closer again. This time I didn't step back fast enough. The space between us disappeared in a way that felt sudden, even though it had been building for days. This is wrong, I whispered. Then why does it feel right? He said. My breath caught. Don't, I said, but it didn't sound convincing, not even to me. Because I didn't move. I didn't leave. I didn't stop it. And deep down I knew. I was already past the point of pretending this was nothing. I don't know who moved first. That's the part that still messes with me when I think back on it. I've replayed that moment 100 different ways in my head, trying to figure out if it was him, if it was me, if it was something unspoken that pulled us both forward at the exact same time. All I know is that 1 second there was space between us, and the next, there wasn't. It wasn't dramatic. There was no sudden grab, no force, nothing that would make it easy to point and say, that's where everything went wrong. It was quiet, dangerously quiet. My back was still near the counter, my hands resting on the edge, and he was right there in front of me, close enough that I could feel the heat from his body, close enough that if I leaned forward even an inch. Don't, I said again, but it came out softer this time. Not a command, not even a warning, more like a question I already knew the answer to. His eyes flicked between mine, searching, waiting. For what? He asked quietly. I should have said it clearly. I should have stepped away. I should have done anything that actually meant stop. Instead, I just stood there, breathing too fast, thinking too much, feeling everything all at once. This is where we stop, I said, but my voice didn't match the words. He noticed. Of course he did. You keep saying that, he said, almost gently now. But you're not moving. My fingers tightened against the counter. I will, I said, but I didn't. Not yet. Then do it, he said. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for a split second, everything else disappeared. The house, the silence, the weight of everything we weren't supposed to be. It was just him, and me, and the truth sitting between us that neither of us could say out loud. I can't, I admitted, barely above a whisper. That was it. That was the moment everything broke. He exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding that breath for days, maybe longer. Then his hand moved. Not fast, not aggressive. Just enough to close the last bit of distance, his fingers brushing lightly against my arm. And I didn't pull away. That was the part I can't justify. That was the part that made everything after unavoidable. You're not the only one, he said quietly. My chest tightened. I know, I whispered. And that was the last honest thing either of us said before everything blurred into something else. Because once that line was crossed, even just a little, there was no clean way back. I don't remember deciding anything after that. I don't remember thinking, this is the moment. It just happened. A shift, a pull, a surrender to something I'd been fighting and failing to control. And for a few seconds, just a few, it felt like everything else disappeared. No guilt, no consequences, no reality. Just the intensity of being seen, of not having to pretend, of not being alone in something I didn't even understand myself. And then, reality came crashing back all at once. I pulled away first, harder than I needed to. Like if I didn't create distance immediately, I'd lose whatever control I had left.
I just have to.
This was a mistake, I said, my voice shaking now. Tyler didn't move right away. He just stood there, watching me, his expression unreadable. Was it? He asked. Yes, I said quickly. Yes, it was. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing a few steps away, my heart pounding so hard it felt like I couldn't breathe properly. This can't happen again, I added. He didn't respond. Say something, I snapped, more out of panic than anger. What do you want me to say? He asked. I don't know, anything, I said. Just don't stand there like it didn't just happen. I'm not pretending it didn't happen, he said. You are. I'm not pretending, I shot back. I'm trying to fix it. Fix it how? He asked. By stopping it, I said. He tilted his head slightly. Stopping something that already started? Yes. He let out a quiet breath, running a hand through his hair. That's not how this works. It is if we make it work, I insisted. And if we don't? I didn't answer, because I didn't have a plan for that. You're acting like you can just flip a switch, he continued, like you can go back to how things were. We have to, I said. Why? Because this is wrong, I said again, louder this time, like saying it with more force would make it more true. Then why didn't you stop it? He asked. The question hit hard. Too hard. I tried, I said, even though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. No, he said. You said the words. That's not the same thing. I clenched my jaw, frustration and guilt twisting together in my chest. Do you want me to lie? I asked. Would that make you feel better? I don't want you to lie, he said. I want you to be honest. I am being honest. No, he replied. You're being careful. That stung. Of course I'm being careful, I said. Look at what we just did. Exactly, he said. So stop pretending it didn't mean anything. I didn't say it didn't mean anything, I snapped. Then what did it mean? I went quiet, because that was the question I'd been avoiding this entire time, and I still didn't have an answer. It meant, I started, then stopped. He waited. I looked away, shaking my head slightly. I don't know, I admitted. That felt like the only truth I had left. I don't know what this is, I continued. I don't know why it's happening. I don't know how to fix it. The words came faster now, spilling out before I could stop them. But I do know it's going to destroy everything if we don't stop, I added. He was quiet for a moment after that. Then, maybe everything's already broken, he said. I looked up at him, my chest tightening again. Don't say that. Why not? He asked. You really think things are fine the way they are? This doesn't fix anything, I said. I didn't say it did. Then what are you saying? He hesitated, just for a second. Then, it's real, he said. The simplicity of it hit harder than anything else. Real. That word carried more weight than I was ready for. This isn't real, I said, even though my voice didn't sound convinced. It is to me, he replied. I swallowed hard. You don't get to decide that, I said. Neither do you. We stood there again, the silence returning. But this time it felt different, heavier, more permanent, like something had shifted in a way that couldn't be undone. I need space, I said finally. He nodded once. Okay. I mean it, I added. We can't be alone like this. Okay. You have to go out or stay in your room or something, I said, grasping for structure, for rules that might keep everything from falling apart. Okay, he said again. But this time there was something in his tone I couldn't quite read. I grabbed my phone off the counter, my keys, anything to give my hands something to do. I'm serious, I said. We need boundaries. Then set them, he replied. I am. Then follow them. That stopped me. Because he was right. And that was the problem. I nodded slowly, even though it didn't feel like enough. I will, I said. But even as I said it, there was doubt sitting heavy in my chest. Because if I was being honest, I didn't trust myself anymore. And that scared me more than anything else.